You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, Certified Life Coach Michelle Arnold Bourque. In today's episode, we're discussing time management is a lie and the strategy that actually works. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Okay, I have a question for you. How many times this week have you said, I just don't have time for that? Maybe it was the workout, maybe it was the meditation, maybe it was actually following up on that account that you keep meaning to get back to. Maybe it was just sitting down and eating a lunch like a human being. Here's what I want to offer you today. That sentence is a lie. Not a malicious lie, not even a conscious one, but a lie nonetheless. Because here's the truth. You have the same 24 hours as every high performing rep closing quota, building a business, raising kids, and showing up for their life. The difference isn't time. It's what you're deciding to do with it. This is what we're talking about today: time management, priorities, and why the whole conversation needs a total reframe. So let's dive in. I want to suggest this first. You don't find time, you make it. It's something from a book called The Time Warrior by Steve Chandler. And if you haven't read it, I would say add it to the list. Here's the core idea. It's so good. Time warriors don't manage time. They manage themselves. Chandler says a warrior operates in the present moment, not spinning out about the future, not paralyzed by what didn't happen yesterday. Present, decisive, moving. And he makes this point that I think about constantly. When you say, I don't have time, what you're actually saying is, I haven't made that a priority. That's it. I even hear my girl on Peloton talking about that. It just hasn't been made a priority. Because here's the thing. You are choosing every single day. You're choosing what gets your time, your attention, your energy, the scroll, the extra inbox check, the meeting that could have been an email, all of it chosen. And if you're not actively choosing, that's also a choice. Opting out is still opting. Not deciding is deciding. So when you say you don't have time for your workout, what you're really saying is your workout is not as important right now as whatever you're doing instead. And you know what? Sometimes that's true. Life is nuanced, but at least be honest about it. Own the choice. Stop outsourcing your decisions to a calendar that you built. Here's where I want to bring in some brain science too, because I think this gets so good. Have you ever noticed how when you are doing something that you love, like maybe a killer sales call where you're totally in it, or a workout where you hit a flow, you look up and an hour has gone by and it felt like 15 minutes. That's not an accident. That's a flow state. And when you're in it, your brain is producing gamma waves, the fastest brainwave frequency we have. This is peak cognitive performance, heightened perception, effortless action. Your brain literally stops monitoring the clock because it doesn't need to. It's fully, completely in it. This is also where inspired action lives. And I want to make a distinction here because I think it's important. There is a difference between being busy and making progress. Being busy feels like motion. You're checking things off, you're moving, you look productive, but inspired action has a different quality to it all together. It's aligned, it's energized, it actually moves the needle. And you can usually feel the difference if you get honest with yourself. So check in. Are you in motion or are you in momentum? Now, contrast that with how long it feels when you're doing something that drains you. 3 hours in a meeting that has nothing to do with your goals. You're just meeting to meet. 2 hours of admin that you hate. It drags. You're exhausted by the end and you feel like you have nothing left. What comes to mind for me? Immediately, expense reports, inventory. Can I tell you how much I could not stand expense reports? So much so that our financial advisor back in the day suggested that I plan to do it on Friday night with a glass of wine and some fun music because he thought that if I could do that, it might get me to actually complete the expense reports and not keep getting hit with those damn late fees. Try to make it fun, right? But the truth is, most people don't burn out because they don't have enough time. They burn out because they are spending too much time on things that drain them and not enough on things that fuel them. This is energy management, not just time management, and it changes everything. So let's bring this into the real world because I know how this can show up. You're field based. Your calendar is a negotiation between what you plan and what actually happens. A case gets added, a surgeon runs late. I know, shocker. They do, right? Sometimes, always. The hospital that makes you jump through hoops and gives you your firstborn, your right arm, and everything else under the sun in order to get you through credentialing and then wants to tie you up at the vendor check-in. And yet, you figure it all out. You didn't just find 3 extra hours. You adapted. Here's what I see in the highest performers. They protect the non-negotiables, not because they're rigid, but because they know their non-negotiables are the foundation that makes everything else possible. When your morning is grounded, when you start from intention instead of reaction, you show up differently. In the OR, you are sharper, more present. You close more effectively. But so many reps skip the morning routine the second things get busy because it feels like extra. It's not extra. It is the strategy. And here's a practical tool that might help. A time audit combined with an energy check-in. And I want to give you 2 ways to do this. The first is simple. For 1 week, just 7 days, track how you're spending your time. Next to each block, just write one of these 3 letters. G for gives energy, N for neutral, D for drains energy. And the second idea or tool to use comes from Molly Fletcher. Totally love Molly Fletcher. Also, if you haven't followed her or know her, check her out. She's a sports agent turned performance coach, and she calls it the energy clock. Same idea, color coded. Green is your peak energy, the time of day when you are sharpest, most focused, most on. Yellow is moderate. You're functional, but not firing on all cylinders. And red is your low, the drag hours. Most people have their green time somewhere in the morning, and then they spend it clearing email or sitting in the meetings that could have been a text. That is an energy crime, right? It's just taking from us. But when you are able to map your time and your energy together, you stop scheduling your hardest, most important work in the red. You stop wasting your green on the trivial. You get strategic about what goes where. And by the end of the week, you'll have a visual map of where your time is going and what it's costing you. Promise you, you are going to find pockets you didn't even know that you had, and you get to decide what to do with that information. I have also been living this in real time on multiple levels and let me just back up here for a second because I think this is important. I talk about calendars and time with so much conviction because I have lived the before and after. I had a coach, and I am so grateful for her, who called me out on it. Probably now back in 2017, I think it was. I was going on and on and on about how my job controlled my life, my schedule, my time. I was completely arguing for my limitations like they were facts, and she just didn't quite understand. And she stopped me and said, "What if that's not true?" And then, of course, I went on to explain to her how it was absolutely true. She just would not let me keep the story. And once I was able to see a new way of looking at it, and you guys, there are times when we are so in our own story, we need someone who has perspective to help us out. So when I was able to see the different perspective, it changed everything. My calendar was where everything started to shift. When I realized I had more agency over it than I was giving myself credit for, that I was choosing, even when I told myself I wasn't, it was genuinely life-changing. Not like dramatic, oh, overnight, all of a sudden, I know I have the most time available ever. No, it was real. And it was the awareness of seeing the different perspective that allowed other doors to open. When we know we have agency, we are so much more likely to actually make the changes because you stop waiting for permission. So back to right now. We just moved, and anyone who's gone through a big move knows routines get completely upended. Our home gym isn't fully set up yet. My space in the office looks different. Nothing is where my muscle memory expects it to be, which is obvious. We are in Florida, not New York. But there's a bigger shift happening too. After decades in medical device sales as a W 2 employee, I am now in partnership with Mark running our business. And there are multiple levels to that. It's not just being a W 2 employee to an entrepreneur, it's also working with your husband all the time, right? And you would think that that would mean more flexibility, more ease, more control over time. And it does. But here's what nobody tells you: the freedom is actually the hardest part to get used to. For years, and I mean years, I didn't take a lunch break, right? We don't have time for that. You know what lunch was? Hard boiled eggs in the cart, eating them in between calls. A protein bar, maybe at a red light. You just keep moving because that was the culture. That was the pace. That's what it took. So when Mark recently noticed that I was still doing that, not stopping, not eating to take a real break, he looked at me and said, I'm pretty sure even inmates get an hour for lunch. And you know what? They also get time outside. I just couldn't stop laughing because he's not wrong. And sometimes we need people to call us out on our BS, right? This is the reprogramming work because my brain is still running the old operating system, the one that says if you stop, you're falling behind. If you rest, you're being lazy. If you have a full lunch, you're wasting time. But here's what I'm learning: different is not the same as wrong. It just feels uncomfortable because it's new. And the discomfort is the sign you're actually changing, not failing. So my morning routine looks different. The gym isn't set up. I've been doing my workouts on the beach. I know, poor me. My meditation, my movement, it's all still happening. It's the same commitment. It's just a different container. That's the time warrior mindset. A warrior doesn't wait for perfect conditions. They create results with what they have, where they are right now. Mark and I actually call it NPOS. No problems, only solutions. The most important thing is that it still gets in because I decided they're not negotiable, not because I found the time, because I made it. And here's the piece that I want you to sit with. Time is a construct. The clock is a human invention. The hours are a social agreement. Hello, some of us spring ahead and fall back and others don't. We just make it all up. What's real, what's actually true is the energy you bring to each moment. When you are energetically aligned with what you're doing, time expands. When you're fighting yourself, time collapses into exhaustion. So the question isn't just, how do I manage my time better? The deeper question is, am I spending my energy on the things that are in alignment with who I'm becoming? Your future self, the version closing bigger deals, leading a team, building wealth, living fully. She didn't get there by doing everything. She got there by getting clear about what deserved her yes. Your time, your energy, your attention, these are your most valuable assets. Invest them like it. Here's what I want you to do this week. First, do the audit. I've done this on a number of occasions because sometimes I have to check myself. 7 days. Just track your time and tag it. G, N, or D. Gives the energy, neutral, or drains. Or do the full Molly Fletcher and use the color system, green, yellow, red. Either way, see what shows up for you. Second, look at what you're calling impossible right now. The thing you keep saying that you don't have time for, and ask yourself honestly, is this actually impossible? Or have I just not decided that it's a non-negotiable yet? And then third, pick one thing that keeps getting deprioritized this week. Either make it a non-negotiable, no conditions, no caveats, or just take it off your list. If it's really not that important, stop telling yourself that you have to do it because obviously you don't. I have to do this often as well. If I catch myself kicking the can down the road day after day after day, I really have to question, how important is it? Because that's what a time warrior does. They decide and then they act. You're not managing time, you're managing yourself. And when you own that, everything shifts. Okay, friends, if this landed, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a review if you haven't. It genuinely helps the show reach more women who need it, and a 5-star would be especially appreciated. Okay, I so appreciate you being here today. That's what I have for you. Let's meet back next week, but for now, lead your life with intention because it's your time. Make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburkecoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.